And and then ultimately 5 years later, I bought an HVAC company that was nearly liquidated. It was right on the edge of failure. Because I was 39 years old, I was pretty sure I could turn it around in short order. What I thought would take 2 years took five. But I
Wow.
still, that's the company that I just retired from. So 38 years later,
Wow.
I'm still there. And it just got to be something.
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. Rich Ashton is with us today. And Rich, no one knows Rich better than Rich. So Rich, I need that backstory. Bring us up to speed, and we're going to get into an incredible conversation. I already know that, but let's tell everyone else why we're going.
Sure, I'm happy to be here and happy to tell my story as quickly as I can do it. So I was very fortunate when I got out of the Navy. I worked for a company, excuse me, called Trammell Crow, a very large company in the real estate development field. And I had dropped out of college, so I knew nothing about business. But they let me in through the back door, and I worked for those people. They were mostly Ivy League MBAs, and I was out of my depth by a long shot. But I was smart enough to listen and watch, and I got the greatest training in entrepreneurship, in doing business ethically, and treating people well. And it carried me, or it has carried me the rest of my life. And I'm just so grateful to have gotten that start. So I worked for them for 10 years, 5 years as a partner. I sold my interest back in 1983 because I just didn't have a passion for real estate. And I had always wanted to be a small business guy. And so I decided that's what I was going to be. And I began purchasing companies, turning around companies and all. And 45 years later, I'm 30 days into retirement, and it has been a fabulous ride. And along the way, I've been able to employ those principles I learned at Trammell Crow. I've developed people. That's kind of my greatest passion. I've always had exceptional customer service. That's been how we've gone to market and how we have run our companies. And so along the way, I've got great stories. I've got some failures. It's been a terrific ride, and I'm a little disappointed that it's over. But now I'm into this chapter where I'm talking on podcasts and wrote a book, and so this will be a new challenge.
Oh, that's awesome. Listen, Rich, it's never over till it's over. Okay,
I hope
so
you're right.
you're still in the game. Nope, you're doing books. You're speaking. It's just the next season. Okay, you know my one of my favorite sayings I heard. Retire means to put four new tires on, to retire and get going back down the road. Okay, so that's my plan for retirement.
Well, I
Okay,
hadn't heard that. I like that.
so that's what you're doing. Do the book thing, share that wisdom, get out there and do that. What you're going to do today, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to really kind of tapping in to this lifetime of experience. Okay, and I love the fact that how you began, because obviously, okay, you go into this company out of the Navy, right? So did you go college, then Navy? You dropped out of college, do the Navy, then came back out?
That's correct. Vietnam was going on, so if you dropped out of school, you didn't have any choice but to go in the military.
There you go. All right. Well, okay. Well, I'm a Marine. You're Navy. It's all good. We're going to continue to have a good conversation. A little younger than you, but here's the thing. So you get out of the Navy. You get this gig with this real estate it's a development company, right? Real estate
Correct.
development. Okay. So I'm here in 5 years, and then the second 5 years you're a partner.
That's correct.
Okay. So yeah, you're not an idiot. Okay.
Boy, I'd
So
sure like to think so.
well, you know what I'm saying? Like you get in 5 years, now you're a partner in this company. That's not because you sat around and did the minimum. Okay.
No, I am. I'm a pretty good observer and a pretty good listener.
Excellent. Excellent. So these are some of the great takeaways, right? And that kind of stuff. So I also like Rich, that you realized after 10 years, 5 years being a partner, which you could get comfortable doing that, right? You realize that's not your gig. Okay. And 10 years, that's a good answer. I mean, that's a pretty solid directional change. In 10 years, it's not like you did it for 6 months and said it's not your gig. So I like that you really realized that. But then that step, this is what I want to talk about. The step from 10 years with this company, and then what was the first thing you did? Did you already have, I call it the Spider-Man philosophy? Don't let it go one web till the other one's onto something. You know what I mean? So you don't fall to the ground. What was kind of your plan there? Let's start right there.
Well, I didn't follow that spider web plan. I just quit cold turkey. They were about to expand, give me a new territory, and I just thought this isn't fair. I know that I'm not going to be here much longer, and so I took that as my opportunity to leave. The other thing that was driving me at that point is that I had been plugged into a really, really good company with a great system. And in the deep recesses of my mind, I was wondering if I was successful because of their system or because of me.
Mm.
And I knew I was working hard and I knew I was reasonably bright, but I couldn't get rid of that thought that this may not be me. So I'd made at that point in my life, more money than I was expecting to make. And so I could leave cold turkey. I sold my interest back. I was getting paid on a regular basis from them, on the payout. And so it wasn't like I just jumped off the end of a pier.
Right.
But I actually did some real estate because that's what I knew. And while I was looking around for something else to do, I did a little bit of real estate development on my own, and that was great, and I enjoyed it. But I knew it was not going to be the future. So I started looking for businesses that would match up with my skills and passion. My passion is customer service. My skills are in communication. And so I wanted to run a day-to-day operating company. I started a rental company. I invested in a construction company. I started a supply company. And then ultimately, 5 years later, I bought an HVAC company that was nearly liquidated. It was right on the edge of failure. Because I was 39 years old, I was pretty sure I could turn it around in short order. What I thought would take 2 years took five. But I
Wow.
still, that's the company that I just retired from. So 38 years later,
Wow.
I'm still there, and it just got to be something. It was time for me to move on to other things.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, the turnarounds. Now that's a relative term. Okay, there's people who can flip it, in a year, 18 months, and they get a big exit and all that. And then there's guys who they turn it around, but then they see the potential, then they grow or they love it, right? And they actually can. And I'll tell you, if you're in HVAC, you're in the services business, and you love customer service, you're going to do okay. All right.
You know,
I mean,
I
it's
I
yeah.
thought if I could perform great customer service, I thought I could be world dominant. So I didn't quite get to world dominant stage, but we developed a really, really good company.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and Rich, it's funny because that was a big thing I did as well, right? I really understood my customers. It was all about serving them. What can I do more for them? And things like that. Delivering more value than I was ever paid for, right? That's just kind of who I am, and that's what I
Mhm.
did. But when you're able to do that consistently and you continue to improve, because it's a lot more involved than people think. People think I got a script to answer the phone. That's my customer service, or whatever. It's like it's a very deep topic. I've had some really great guests on my show. We're talking about this very thing, right? And why that makes the difference, not just in the monetary success, but in reputation, in expansion, in creating the business that actually gives you margin in your life. Because you realize with great customer service, and I love to hear your feedback on this. What I find is you get to serve at a higher level when you have great customer service, which means you have better clients, clients that pay more, that appreciate your service, that pay their bills. It's kind of a snowball effect when you have really good, just so you actually kind of like doing what you do because those good things happen. Whereas your low bidders, the guys who aren't focused on that, they're struggling every pay period. they,
Yeah,
they can't figure out
you're
why.
you're 100% in alignment with how we built it, and we just decided that we were going to be a little bit above the midpoint. We were way above it in quality, a little bit above it in price, and we have marketed to that demographic. We've served that demographic, and we've done it successfully for years and years, and grown the business along the way. But I there's a lot of ways to make money, and you can make money operating at the low end of the business. You
Mhm.
have to operate differently, but it
Mhm.
doesn't fit my style. And
Right.
so I knew my name was going to be on the, if not on the logo of the company, my face was there, and I didn't want to be known for anything other than top-notch service.
Yeah, it's the Bible says a good name is more valuable than great riches, right? So when I'm like you attach my name to it, it's I'm not going to permit my systems, okay, my systems to tarnish my reputation,
Yep.
right? So there's an approach to this that when people first start a business, it's really about earning money because everyone wants to eat. Okay. But I also tell people, Rich, I go, the easiest thing to do in business is make money. That's the easy part of business. It's everything else that's difficult. And it's customer service, it's payables, it's taxes, it's everything else you have to do to actually maintain a quality foundation to build that business on. The money part, that's like, if you're excited about what you do, you can sell it. It's ignorance on fire. That's what I call it. It's just, it works for a while. Okay. But then
Yeah,
it comes back.
I agree with you. And if you look at the failure rate of new businesses, sustainability is a much bigger problem than making money initially.
Yeah.
And frankly, I had to learn this the hard way. But what most businesses fail from is a lack of cash flow, not a lack of profits.
Right.
And in a business like the HVAC business, which is very seasonal, boy, I got a short course in cash flow right off the bat with a troubled company. So it's just been a really interesting thing to learn all along the way. When you learn in small business that your customers are really responding to your employees, and you understand that you'd better be providing great customer service to your employees if you expect them to provide great service to your customers. That's one of the hurdles that I think many companies don't ever get over. We say we provide exceptional customer service by empowering and supporting our employees, and that's why we're in business. That's why we've always been in business, and we filter all of our decisions about the business through that. And if we're considering, for instance, customer facing AI, the question is, does it enhance our customer service or does it not? Well, right now, customer facing AI streamlines a business. It makes it more cost effective, but it doesn't hold a candle to people talking to people. And
Right.
so, when you keep your eye on the ball like that with those constant decisions that come up, I just find that it's the real key to building a solid, sustainable business.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think I talk about this often now. What I've noticed now with my guests, with how I'm deep in AI, I do a lot of stuff in there. I build things inside of it and stuff. But I think the pendulum, as I say, has swung way too far on the automation side in this kind of unknowingly this attempt to like eliminate people or be more efficient and things like that. I said, I think it's got to come back to relationship. And I think a lot of us, I'll call we're relationship early adopters. Okay. Well, like we build businesses that way, right? But we understand that's where the power is. That's where the connection is.
Mhm.
And if you're letting it go too far to the automated, and AI is getting better, and there's a lot of great uses for it from a tool standpoint. But what I always tell people too, I only use those tools to replace the mundane, the everyday, the little things that like no one really wants to do. But like you said, customer facing, okay, yeah, ideally you want people talking to people, right? Or setting that up so that they can talk to people, So even if I do some things with businesses that you got off hours, right? And some business you get a lot of calls at 1 a.m. This day and age, I don't know what people are doing. They were calling about their roof at 1 a.m, not because it was damaged. I'm like, what are you doing at 1 a.m. thinking about your roof? Okay, it doesn't matter because I'm your guy. I want to help you. So who's answering that phone at 1 a.m? because they're never more interested than at the point they're calling.
Sure.
Right. So that's your capture time right there, your optimal capture time. And they have call services and all things like that. Like in your business too, there's emergency calls, right? You get the 20 below winter kind of thing.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
going to get those calls, right? So like, how did you initially, and you did this long enough where we can talk pre-internet and everything else, just like I did, right? Like what was kind of your customer service advantage in that standpoint? What'd you figure out to do?
Well, like I said, we empowered our employees to be special. And we're not kidding about providing exceptional customer service or a wow factor when you deal with us. We hired people with that in mind, and then we trained them to become even better than they were. And we have lots of good examples in our company of people who do it the right way, and we just don't settle for less. In a small company, and that's one of the things I love about a small company, is you get to observe what's going on. You don't have to take somebody else's word for it. And then we're in a town where I know lots of our customers, and I get to hear from our customers. And when they just say, yeah, you guys came out and fixed my air conditioner, that's one thing. But if they say, I talked to Jessica and she was fantastic, and then Paul showed up and he just exceeded my expectations, then we know that our culture is being exhibited by everybody all the way down the organization. And that's when you know you have something special. And you mentioned relationships. We like to think that even if we have a phone relationship with a customer, we still have a relationship.
Right.
And you can transmit information, or you can ask questions and listen to the answers, and you can develop a relationship even over the phone.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I do that with my kids as we raised them. We had the privilege of homeschooling them, so there's a different connection there, right? So I remember when they're like 8 and 9, and they're speaking with an adult, and the adults are kind of mesmerized because my kids look them in the eye, they talk to them, they can shake their hand, they have a conversation about stuff. They ask these questions. They're like, "That's really unusual." I go, "Well, it used to not be unusual." It used to be the norm because kids are involved in things. We got them out, we got them doing different things and dealing with different age groups. So it really helps them. And I watch them now and they're 19, 20, 21. And like their engagement in the workplace is unbelievable. Their ability to move up in companies and stuff because they're just, and it's not like they're unique. They just have that, what you're talking about, they have the ability to connect with people.
Yeah, I think I would disagree with you. I'd say they are unique, and I deal with an awful lot of people of all ages, and those who have the skills that you're describing, shake your hand, step forward, look you in the eye, talk to you, listen to you, you're in the top 10% right there.
Yeah,
And that's pretty unique. So congratulations on doing that.
thank you.
I see that in my own family, and that makes me very proud. I recently was at a career fair, and college level career fair, and the number of students who came to our table with one parent in tow was shocking to me. And the parent did the talking, and the kids stood back.
No,
And I thought, this is
no.
this is scary.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've not gone too far down that path.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, and I get it. I know my kids are not. I know what's out there, right? I see it all the time, working everything else, and I'm super thrilled with their outcome because that's what you do is you raise kids. You're all looking for the outcome. Like
Sure.
we're doing all this we'll see what happens when we turn them loose. Okay, that's gonna be the real test. That's the report card, right? How they behave in public. That's what was always my litmus test. Do people want them over at their house? Do they talk to them? Do they do that stuff? Yes. Okay, that's good. They can be a little nutty at home because we're at home, but out there they do a good job. But so I'm with you there for sure, and I see it a lot in hiring processes. Okay, so with your business and you're about, and this is unique what you did when your focus is actually having great people make customer service to your employees. Okay, I've never heard it stated that way. Okay, and I really like that because there's an attention there. I had another gentleman on years ago, had a HVAC service, same thing, right? His whole thing, he said, you come in his office and he had the wall of fame. So he had pictures of employees that had left, right? And he goes, well, I go, well, that's interest. And he goes, well, yeah, when they want to go, they're here 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. He goes, they go and they go on to like run this whole campus. They're doing this. Well, we throw them a party. We put their name on the wall. We say where they've gone. He's like, and I'm like, that is like brilliant. Because, you know, everyone's going to leave one time or another, right? We all get it. They want, or they have a ceiling, right? We have business, we have places like you're going to hit a ceiling, but there's other opportunity. You should be excited about them going to the next opportunity. You know, like if they've topped themselves out, done really well here, throw that part, because then what I always tell people, I go, listen, he's out there, he or she, they go out, now they're running this whole campus, and some young buck comes up to him and say, hey man, I want to get in this business. He goes, well, you got to go talk to Richard. Mm-hmm. Richard's your guy. Go start there. You'll have the whole world, you know, because they'll train you the way you should be trained. Right. And all that kind of approach. So I really love that. It's always stuck with me. And I started doing that with my bit. Like, I'm going to do that because I think it's brilliant. You know?
Yeah. The having the relationship with your employees, ultimately, if you have the right relationship, it simply gets the best out of them. Right. You know, some people come into the company and they're a little leery. Why is the owner talking to me? Why is he asking me questions? And why I don't share that kind of information. I don't want him to know about my family. But once they see that it's authentic and it's genuine, and I'll share information about my family, you meet my grandkids every once in a while in the office, people begin to loosen up. And when they loosen up, and they allow you into their lives so that you can connect with them on the things that matter to them. And they know that when you say that you're interested in something, you'll ask them about it later. You know, how'd your daughter do in that music competition this weekend? I'm so proud that your daughter just graduated from high school. And, you know, maybe you send the daughter a note and just take everybody by surprise. That level of involvement with employees, which you definitely can do in a small business, that's what unlocks the potential in employees.
Yeah, I love it. Now, let me flip that a little bit.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about this because you've obviously had to deal with it, I'm sure too. Where's the line? That's the question, right? Because yeah, I want to know them. I mean, I had the same crew for 10 years, right? They were like family, right? So I get it. Never missed a day of work. Well, my foreman did. He missed one day because he was so sick he had to go to the ER, but he showed up the next day. So they were good. I loved them, right? We did all the stuff, but where's the line when, you know, guys begin to either take advantage of that? Do you create actual boundaries, even if it's your own personal? Like, where is that at? Because I think that's one of the bigger challenges when you start to connect on those levels.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've been asked it, you know, many times. But so I don't really socialize with employees outside the office. I think that leads to bad things and potentially, you know, favoritism over one or the other. But I participate in all company events when, you know, when everybody's there. I really feel like the employees will tell you where the line is. I've told the story many times about a lady who came to us. And for the first year, she was a good employee. She wasn't a great employee. She was very closed off. She not just closed off to me, she was closed off to everybody else. Well, I just decided I'm going to continue to interact with her as me every day. And if she wants to bite, she can bite. If she doesn't, then I'm certainly not going to force it. And it took a year. And one day she told me, it was a Monday, she told me about an incident that had happened on the football field for her young son. And she had kind of gone wild on a referee because she thought he had made a bad call about her son. And unfortunately, I have some stories in my past about the very same thing. So we connected over that. That began to unlock our relationship, and it unlocked her performance. And 2 years later, she's now a supervisor. She's not closed off anymore. And it just unlocked something in her that she finally said, you know, I trust that this guy is who he says he is. And I trust that this company is who they say they are. And so it's that line is different for everybody. And there are times when employees have expectations because you have shown an interest in them. I must have a switch that allows me to detect that and then shut it off pretty quickly. I don't shut the relationship off, but I make it clear one way or the other that we're not going any deeper, along those lines. And I've had employees come in and want to talk about other employees because they feel comfortable with me. And I'm very clear that we just don't do that. If we want to talk about the other employee, that employee is going to be in the room. And I'll hear both of you out, but I'm not getting one side or the other. And that'll stop it sometimes. So I don't think that I have ever had a problem where I truly crossed the line or where an employee felt like I crossed the line.
Oh, that's great. I think part of that too, I think what you developed, we'll put it under the culture word, right? Once you create a culture like that, I think your ability to create boundaries, whether it's spoken or just through your interaction, that's when it crosses the company, and it's a method of operation. Okay. So when people are welcomed in, what I see is they get it, right? They see it, they see the interaction, like, oh, because again, depending on the culture, I've dealt with them recently that it's just a really bad culture, American culture, right? It's just, there's a lot of stuff that's tolerated and permitted and things that should never be, right? Because there's management issues. And again, it always starts at the top. So you're at the top, you're leading by example that way. That all trickles down whether you think it does or not. And I think
100%.
I
Yeah.
think it's really important that, in the extreme ownership, Jocko Willing kind of stuff, like you got to take that. And I'm telling you, like, it's 100% the case. I go see broken things in businesses, and I can follow the trail, and it goes up to the owner. It is. I've one reason. It's just they're not good with people. They know they're not good with people. Okay, and that's okay. You need to know that, but don't hire someone who's also not good with people to be your second man. Okay, number two man's got to be really good with people. They got to be the strength where you're weak. You know what I mean? So, but I really see that in the development of culture. It's what you tolerate. If you let them negotiate standards, there's a whole big thing. I wrote a whole book on it myself, right? So that to me is what you did, whether knowingly or unknowingly. I think you established a culture in the business because of who you are. Because there is that great saying, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. Right. So did you kind of see that? Was that something you realized over time, or did you go in intentionally that way? How'd that work for you?
Yeah, I did go in intentionally, but remember, I got great training in
Right.
in culture, and so would it have occurred to me to do it that way? I don't know. Probably not the first time. I probably would have gotten it right ultimately, but I started out knowing that everybody who comes into our organization needs to understand what our values are. And our values are integrity, and our values are honesty and treatment of each other, and exceptional customer service. We preach that in the interview, and we do a multi-part interview process. And by the time a prospective employee hears the same message from three different people at three different levels in the company, they they start to understand. And then when we built the space that we're in now, we took great pride in creating something that was really, really special, and that it would appeal to the recruits that we had. And we actually went from having about a 20% hit ratio on employees that we wanted to hire to an 80% ratio when we moved into our new building. And we give them a tour, and we proudly point out things. When we take a prospective HVAC employee, a technician or an installer, into our training room, which is made out to be like a football field and has athletic figures on the walls, they just go, "Oh my gosh, I've never been in a company that cares about its employees this much." And so we started from day one, and we never let up on the culture.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so important. I mean, I've seen so many different levels of culture application or no culture. Well, there's no such thing as no culture. Okay.
True.
It'll be bad culture.
True.
It'll be exceptional. It'll be mediocre. It'll be somewhere on the scale, but you have a culture, whether you think so or not, and I love that you really focused on that. I think that's an important thing. Again, there's degrees of that, and I think boundaries even inside that. It's still about getting the job done.
Yep.
right? But and that's number one, right? Like let's talk about when you are hiring, because I think one of the things that you're helping develop is core values. You've got core values. They're
Mhm.
restated again and again. And that I think is what's going to draw what I'll call the character of an individual to your company. Because this is where a lot of companies struggle, Rich, is character, hiring for character. It's
Mhm.
very difficult because they can't define it. Because I'll ask them and they don't know. I go, this is why people leave, or you get the wrong people. We have to, so character is an important thing. Is that, again, part of your hiring process? Is the core value something that dictates or pulls out their character, and they have to align with that? How does that work for you? How do you see that working?
We, I agree with you 100%. We try to draw out character. Yeah, character questions are a little bit dicey
Yeah.
in an interview. I will tell you that on our field employee side, when we generally hire people from top trade schools, and because we have a reputation for being special and our apprenticeship program is really top notch, we get first crack at the top trade school graduates. We bring them in five at a time after a career fair, and we have lunch with them. They talk to everybody in the company. They obviously get the tour, but one of the fun things that one of our guys developed was a competition. So we'll split them into groups, and they'll build something, but they have to work together, and it's surprising how much we learn by watching the 10 minutes that they're working together to build something. And someone emerges as a leader, or a couple of people emerge as leaders. Some people kind of sit back and don't show much personality. Some people get their feelings hurt. It's a microcosm of how they're going to act when they're an employee. And we have gotten great insight, and probably did not hire some people that we otherwise would have if we hadn't seen them in action, and then hired people because they were just so outstanding in the group exercise.
Oh, I love that. That is brilliant. I love
I
that.
didn't come
That's
up
great.
with that, so I get to
Well,
brag on somebody else for that idea.
and that's the whole idea, right? Leaders make other leaders.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what you're doing there. But I think in knowing, of you've told us about your facility, you do that and then put in those kind of exercises and things like that. That's an experience. You
Yeah.
bring a young person out of trade school, right? And you're like, since you got the athletic stuff on the wall, you're doing a draft pick. That's what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
It's your combine, right? You're going to bring them in and see how they perform, and best
It
man
is,
wins.
and we know that nobody else can compete with the show that we put on for those youngsters, and so I mean
I love it.
it's almost an unfair advantage.
I love it, Rich. That just warms my heart. I mean, that attention to it's like so here I'll drive around, and my son works for a big local construction company here, been on for 4 months or something, but I drive around to see them everywhere. They're rebuilding downtown. They're doing work all over the place, right? This big company. And I always check the age. Okay. Cause you go to most construction company, see people working, there's no one under 40.
Correct.
Okay. Like, where's the 20-year-olds? Now my son's 18, almost 19. He's a heavy equipment operator, demolition. The kid can do anything. He's been working since he was 9. Okay. Like, the kid can operate some equipment, but he's a rarity. Okay. So like, and they have a whole workforce development now geared toward these younger kids, which is really, really awesome. I mean, they're doing things for robotics, or bringing young, they're doing all this. I mean, even robotics and masonry, they got them working there. So they found a way to attract them. They do a paid internship.
Right.
They come in, and I remember one girl speaking. She's like, "Well, I wanted to get in masonry. I want to do all that." And I thought it was going to be great. And I found out it's not great. And she goes,
hard work.
right. And she's like, now I'm doing this. She does this, whatever she did, this other thing on biologicals or whatever she's doing. But that was a great internship to keep someone from going down the wrong road, because the money's good, but they're never happy. They're never really fulfilled doing that job, and it's beating them up. Because I always tell people, because they complain about robotics, and I go, have you met a lot of 55-year-old masons? And they're kind of, walking funny. And I go, that's a brutal job. And now, if you've got, you know what I mean? So we can go down these different trails, but that's a really great entry point, just like you're doing. like you're checking skills, right? Are they going to be even applicable here? Are they going to fit here? That's the whole thing. Are they going to fit in our culture? There's plenty of people who don't. They don't want to be in a good place for a million reasons. Okay. There's a million reasons why they don't. But if you can't get the basic fit in the beginning, you're already starting behind the eight ball, right?
Yeah, and we take them once we hire them in an apprentice as an apprentice, then we rotate them for 30 days in each one of our divisions. So they get residential installation, residential service, commercial installation, commercial service. And at the end of that 4 month period, if we like them and if they like us, then we sit down and decide what the best fit is. They will by that time, they will have decided what it is they think they'd like to do. And if that matches up with what we think they'd be good at, then then we hire them. But I don't think we've got an actual number, but I would say that we hit successfully on that about 60% of the time. And the
That's great.
vast majority of the time that we don't hire somebody permanently, they just surprised us. They didn't have the customer service skills. They weren't quite as gifted skills wise as we needed them to be, or they didn't have the aptitude. But it's a great way for us to look at people. It's a great way for them to look at us. And over the last 5 years, I'll bet you that 75% of our new field employees have come through the apprenticeship program.
Well, that's awesome. That
And
is awesome.
in a time where it's been difficult for 20 years to find experienced people in our industry, we just found that we can train them faster and we learn about whether they share our values or not.
Yeah, I do a lot of manufacturing, and I found a lot of them want a blank canvas to start with. They want that person who's like CNC machine. Well, I hope you've never used one before. Okay. They want to train you their way, right? And they get that. And then you've got the whole package there. It's kind of unique. A lot of people don't think, well, I don't have experience in this. Doesn't mean you don't go talk to the company. Most a good company has a training program, right? They have this stuff in place and they're going to train you their way. Now you're going to get paid training, if you will, right? You're going to go through this process, really find out if you like it or not like it, right? Or like you said, I love that you've got multiple facets that they may fit in one, right? And giving them the opportunity to see those. They call it craftsman with character. So it's a guy here local. I'm in Wisconsin. So he started that program, right? In high school kids. So he takes them to companies, right? So like every Friday they go to a company and they'll go through every aspect of the company. They spend like 3-4 hours there. And the owners will walk them through from sales to production. They'll do all this stuff, right? To kind of get a feel for what it really is, right? So I heard about that. Now he was doing this for about 10 years. The Navy finally found out and invested huge money. Said, we want this. We need to get people. And it's really cool. So it's really taken off now nationally. But I heard about that. I look at it, and then I'm working with my clients. I go, well, why aren't you doing this with your employees? You got guys on the line. Why don't you once a week give them 2 hours? They go do sales. They go do admin. They just observe and they get a little hands on and they know how everything works. Because when you go in and all you do is this one thing and there's a whole line, or that goes the next thing, you don't know about everything else that goes into moving this product from where you may start with it in raw material to where it actually gets shipped, how it gets shipped and where it arrives and what people do with it. If you don't know all of that, it's hard to have a full buy-in to the whole company, right? It's like you don't really understand what you're producing and what for, and what is the whole process is.
The other benefit of that we've found is that all of a sudden they ride with a salesman for an afternoon and they understand what goes into a salesman's job. It's not driving around in the flashy car and having long lunches. And when we have them come out of the field and work with a dispatcher, it doesn't take long before they're grateful that they're not a dispatcher.
That's
and
right.
listening to people on the phone all day. And you kind of get two effects out of a program like that. And we've used it and I believe in it.
I love it. You know what else though? The opposite too. You get someone who goes into sales and they go, ooh, I like this. I've seen that too. They're like, and they go in and they're crushing it in sales, because they got exposed.
Absolutely.
Because people got all kinds of negative vibes on sales.
Oh, our best salespeople have experience in the field. That makes
That's right.
them so much better. And so
Exactly.
we've promoted many from the field.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, there's so many great ways, Rich, to really take what you do and like you've done, you've turned it. It's not my sole focus is income generation. There's a whole different mindset here, and there's so many tentacles inside your business to work with everyone inside your business. You know what I mean? To really skill them up and see it, have this greater understanding. And I think when you do all of that, overall, you're creating retention, huge retention inside your company. People are staying. Like I always try to get my clients say, okay, what's the ROI point of a new hire? When did they become an asset and not a liability? Is that 3 months, 6 months, 18 months? What does that look like? Because I want every person who works for us to be an asset,
Sure.
to be creating more than they're being paid, right? So, but people don't understand what that is. Where is that point? Is that something you've thought about or ever considered, like, or know in particular? Like, what does that mean? I don't mean hard dollars per se, but you get what I mean.
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't have a concrete answer for you on that, but let me tell you about another program that we have in the company that is what allowed me to retire. And that is I decided several years ago that if I didn't want to sell to private equity, I was going to need to train up a team of people from within the company who already had the values in place and teach them to be leaders. And in a trade company, leaders are in short supply. Tradesmen typically don't get leadership training along the way, and so we put a leadership training program in place. I kind of started in a different direction than I wound up, but once I got it right, we took 8 people who all but one had come out of the field and began to teach them what leadership looked like. And not just leadership in the business, but leadership in their life. And you mentioned a book earlier that I really believe in, and that's Extreme Ownership. We had already gone through the book with them together, but a lot of the accountability and those principles were taken from that book. But as I was happy with the progress in the training program, but I was missing a magic piece. And I decided that I would write a blog to the leadership team every 2 weeks, and it would be about just different stuff. And my goal was they weren't talking about leadership amongst themselves. They were taking the lessons and kind of filing them away, maybe putting a little bit in practice, but there was no cross conversation. They began reading the blogs in leadership meetings together, and they began holding each other accountable to the principles contained in the blogs. And the program really took off at that point. One day I was walking through the company and I noticed that several of the people had white binders on their desk. And I said, the binder is new. What's in the binder? He said, well, we're printing out your blogs and we're keeping them on our desks for ready reference. Well, that program continued for 2 years. And I was about out of ammunition. I'd shared with them about everything I knew to share. And one weekend, I read through all the blogs. There were 52 of them. And I said, I'm going to publish this as a book.
Nice.
And so I cut it down to 35 blogs. The chapters are about 2.5 pages. The book is short. The book is very, very easy. And I called it Growing Your Own, as in growing your own leaders.
Yep.
And they now have that book on their desk instead of the blogs. And it has been a down-to-earth, practical, common sense guide for them. And it's what I'm sharing with people now because, as you know, common sense advice, easy to understand advice in a manufacturing or trade company is really hard to come by. There's all kinds of theoretical leadership books written by really, really smart people, much smarter than me. But as I listen to them, I go, every principle, there's nothing in the book that's wrong. Every principle is correct. My people would never sit for a book like this. They'd never listen to an hour-long podcast on theoretical entrepreneurship or leadership.
Right.
And so I'm really proud that this book has the possibility of impacting people who are at the start of their career or just haven't been exposed to leadership and now will have an opportunity to become leaders in their own company. The team that I trained now runs the company.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's what's, I'm the same thing. So, we talked about this before we went on air, but it's just really my book getting down 97 pages. Okay. And that's including some blank pages and everything else in there. Right. So I'm like, I'm very like you, very practical application. Okay. I get all the theory. I hear it all the time. It always sounds good till I go try to do it. And then you get that realization, like, you've never done this. You've talked about this. I guess, there's a great saying, no battle plan ever survives the first shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's our businesses. Okay. Yep. That's any business, right? It all looks good on paper until you do it. Okay. And if you haven't done it, I'd rather have done it than put it on paper. Because then then you've got real world, application and all this stuff. And that's what I love. Is I love you've done it. I love you've written a book, taken those blogs. I did it with my first thing I did, the ebook. So I'm writing all this stuff. I'm like, well, I'll just do an ebook. So I wrote this ebook and I tried to make it really like, basically it was cold and informational, right? So that's what I did first. And it was like, I don't know, 8-9 pages, something like that, right? And I'm like, okay, it's cool. I got a cool cover. And I'm like, it's not right. It's like, yes, it works when you do it. It's like reading instructions on a thing, like a cake box.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like set the oven, do this. That's kind of, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got all these stories. I've been doing this for 30 years. So I went and I revamped it and started weaving in stories and client. Now it's 33 pages. And I was like, ooh, that's like readable. That's really good. Then I'm looking at that and go, well, I can write a book. I'm going to write a book. So I wrote, Escape the Owner Prison. I got bestseller. I'm like, I did the same thing, but I, went to 30,000 words. You know what I mean? But it's all practical. And when you can weave that in, like your blogs, this is you. Here's a guy who's been doing this for decades. You're putting this stuff in there. You're building this. It's very valuable. There's a completely different sense of value as you were shown with binders on desks. Okay. They determine the value, not you. That's what's so awesome. And that's what great leadership's about. Okay. You're not telling them exactly what to do. Walk this way, do this. It's like you're leading, they're picking it up and they're determining the value of it. And when they embrace that, do it, that's impressive. So just kudos to you for doing that.
I love it when people tell me, gosh, I read your book and I don't think I learned anything brand new, but there were 5 things that I no longer do that I used to do. And I'm going to start doing them again. Or my youngest son told me, he was about halfway through the book and he called me and he said, Dad, this is about life. This isn't just about business. Yep. Well, I love that. And it is. And yep. We've made people better parents. We've made them better partners. And we've made them enjoy life a whole lot more. So I love the fact that I can share that information with people and they'll get benefit out of it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, that's impact with your business. Mm-hmm. That's how you make impact. Okay. We got freedom, we got profit, we got impact, right? You got to make that impact. I just remember I handed a young guy at a roofing business for a number of years and we're talking about all this stuff because I had it and I go, oh, here, I got a book. And I hand him this Escape the Owner Prison. He just read the title and he's like, that's me. That's me. That's right where I'm at. I'm like, well, read it. It's fundamentals that everyone skips. Just like you're saying. I go, it's not like this isn't any great revelation. It's just when you see it and it's woven in with my story, I go, enjoy all my failures. Okay. Because they're in the book. Yeah. I go and learn from them. Compressed.
I had some of those in there too.
Right? If you don't, you're probably lying.
Yeah.
Okay. Or by omission. Okay. Like, listen, failures are great. Okay. I always tell people failures are just the stepping stones to learn everything else. I go, it's quitting that I'm not a fan of. Okay. Like you're going to fail, big deal, get up, brush it off and let's keep going. Okay. Let's learn from it. If you're failing the same way all the time, we'll have a different conversation. Okay.
Correct.
But I love that authenticity, which is kind of the whole kind of big idea of what you've created, right? If you boil it down, not only is it core values and all that, but there's an authenticity to it. And it's getting to kind of be a cliche word these days, but for those who have actually put it into place for 40 years, like it's legit, you're an early adopter of all authenticity. We'll call you that. right?
Well, I think too, in trade companies or manufacturing companies like yours, authenticity from higher ups is in real short supply.
Yeah.
And I found real early on when I bought the HVAC company that they could like me as a leader, they could like me as a person. They didn't trust me because I didn't come out of the trades. And I
Right.
had to, if I wanted to communicate effectively, I needed to communicate through somebody who had actually been there. And I don't think that's changed. I think that the simplicity of common sense, which it makes perfect sense when you read it. It's something that you can read this morning and put in place this afternoon. I listened to a podcast this morning while I was walking, and I'll bet you in the course of an hour, I'll bet you the guy threw out 10 acronyms. Now, I don't know if people can ever remember anything from acronyms, but I can't.
Right.
And I thought they all made sense when he explained them, but at the end of the podcast, I couldn't remember one of them. I didn't want to write a book like that.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. I've in our command system, we have acronyms, but I usually spell it, I usually say what it is first. And that's more internal. And for when guys are actually earn that command position, then you start using that. In the military, there's a million. I talked to my son, he's in the Marine Corps. And like I was in the Marine Corps. Well, the acronyms are a little different today. Okay. And he's speaking in acronyms. And I'm
Yeah.
just nodding, yeah, man, that's awesome. That's I don't it doesn't matter if I know what they are or not.
I
No, I'm
have
just
no
proud of you.
idea what you're talking
Proud of
about.
just you got Marine of the Quarter. That I understand.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, get that. But it's just that you're exactly right. It's practicality, right? That's where we kind of should live and breathe. I get the esoteric, I get the academic. Okay, I understand that stuff, but who's gonna break that down into the practical application? Show me it actually works, and that's what your people are saying when you haven't been in the trades, right? So it didn't make you quit. It just you found a workaround to that. How do you relate to them?
Yep.
And that's what you have to understand. And you know what? That's a position of humility in leadership. Okay. You have to have that position of humility. You don't know, but you can find out. I mean, I do a whole thing on the floor. We install command on the floor because the floor, it's command the front, win the floor. So down there it's a whole different animal, right? But I also have to deal with the C-suite. How are they part of that? How do we get that? How do we connect this and do that? So you did the same thing, right? But you had to be you, right? And then go down and work those different those angles and understanding and build that trust, because the trust is where loyalty begins, right? There's no loyalty till they have trust, right?
Yeah, and that gets back to authenticity and transparency. You just can't fake that stuff.
That's right. That's right. So give us kind of a big view of the book because you mentioned it slightly. Let's talk a little bit more about the book. I think we know why you did it. Okay. We understand that from the blog and everything else, but just give us a little more insight on that and we'll kind of let people know how to get it and everything else.
Sure. The book is 35 chapters. It's a short book, 2.5-page chapters because they basically were the blogs. And I cut out about 17 of them to get down to that level. They are organized around 6 different characteristics of leaders, and it starts with communication. It talks about accountability, proactivity, problem solving, and then something that you and I haven't talked about that I was very lucky to get early in my life is the quest for knowledge. And I admitted early in this podcast that I didn't know much of anything about business when I went to work for the real estate developer. And a young Harvard MBA pulled me aside and said, "You don't know much, do you?" And I said, "I'm afraid I don't." And he said, "I want you to start reading 5 business periodicals every week, and I want you to read the Wall Street Journal every day." He said, "You're going to be surprised at how that fills in your gap." And I wasn't much of a reader at that point, but I was smart enough to take his advice, and I have continued that. So 52 years later, I'm still reading. I read about an hour and a half every day, and maybe some of it's on audiobooks, some of it's podcasts, some of it's books. I read on as many different subjects, whether they appeal to me or not. And the knowledge, the breadth of knowledge that you gain from a program like that is just astonishing. And if your role as a leader, your primary role as a leader is to influence people, The more you know about how people think and act, the more you know about the world, the more effective you're going to be in a leadership role. And it doesn't matter if you're a frontline supervisor or a CEO, that principle applies. And I'm so grateful that that advice was given to me, and I'm equally grateful that I have followed it. I'm shocked at the new stuff that I learn every morning as I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rich. I mean, it's you have to have that openness to intake. Okay,
Mhm.
you've got to I've done stuff. You and I have done stuff for a long time, right? We've done a lot. A lot of people come to me. I coach, I help them, but I'm always trying not to be the smartest guy in the room.
100%.
Okay, I'm like I just that's why I podcast. I mean, I love everybody, but man, I learned something. I just learned a ton from you. I learned every guest of over 300 interviews. 1 hour with everything from NBA coaches to Navy SEALs to publishers, the guys who own HVAC companies doing all this stuff. It's like you get to, and that's like, because I only listen to a couple of podcasts because of my time restraints, but I do podcasts. So
Yeah.
I probably listen to more than most people because I do so many, but it's that quest. It's that quest for not just knowledge. Because I tell people, just like your book. Okay, great. They get your book, Rich. They read it, then they put it on the shelf and they don't apply anything.
That doesn't do any good
That's
then.
burned up time. You'll never get that back, right?
Yep.
And that's why Rich and I both, we keep our books short and practical. So like, I just get a
I thought
highlighter.
it was because I just wasn't smart enough to write a longer
Nope,
book.
nope, no, you're too smart. And you're so smart, you know that no one's going to read past this. I have like pastors, right? I had one, he was in all four branches of the military, right? Ended up being a commander in the Navy, getting out. All four branches, he goes, listen, the master of the 20-minute sermon. I'm like, he's like, well, you have to. I'm dealing with military guys. They're not going to listen more than, and I'm like, well, and he's retired and everything else now, but I'm like, you're just a master of it. Mark Twain said, if I have 90 minutes to speak, I don't even prepare. If I have 15 minutes, it takes me a week and a half.
Yep.
Okay. Because that's short, the brevity aspect, that's where leadership, that's where it reigns. Can you direct in brevity? Like, here's a command. I train, one of the things that we do is you have 14 words max to give instruction. Okay. If you come at 15 words, it fails. I need 14 words or less. Do it. They need to grab it, do it, go and perform. I said,
14 words is really short too.
it is. But once you get it, you get it. And we create a vocabulary and all kinds of other cool stuff. But once you operate in that way, it's very simple to retain. Just like you said, 10 acronyms, not going to help me. Okay, at the end of the day, but less than 14 words and go do that. That's the way to do it, right? So yeah, it's so many great things. So many great things. I'm looking forward to getting your book and
Well, I
reading
hope
it.
you do. I hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. I have to.
Let me know what you think.
I can't have you on my podcast and not get your book. So I want to get your book. And for everybody else, really you can tell them how to get it, but just get it. I always do this on my podcast, Rich. It's when someone's offering something, take advantage of it. It's free, small price, whatever it is. If they have a book, read the stupid book. Okay. Just read it and then go apply it. I've been on book review podcasts as guests, right? I had one guy and we spent the first hour, we didn't even get to chapter 5. Okay. He opened, now here's another guy who's just a learner. You know how he opened what he told me when we started? He goes, well, I've made 16 pages of notes on your book. I'm like, that's more than I had to write it. Yeah. Okay. But I'm like, that guy's legit.
That felt great, didn't it?
Okay. But I'm like, and then we had to do 2 shows because we only got to chapter 5 in the first show. And he had to come back and do the second one, the second half, because he was so into it. He's a learner. He's a guy who uses it and takes it on. And, it's just so, I just want to just encourage people, like, books are great, right? When you find them that the key is practical, or never judge a book by its thickness. Okay. Or maybe judge it by its thickness. I don't know. I guess you could go both ways on that, but shorter is good and practical. So how do people get a hold of your book or get in contact with you, or what does that look like?
The name of the book is Growing Your Own: Common Sense Advice for Developing Leaders in Small Business. The website is growingyourown.net, not .com, but .net. And then if someone wants to reach out to me directly, I'm always available, rich@growingyourown.net. The book it's a 2-hour listen if you want to get it in audiobook form. if $15 to download the book is not worth 2 hours investing in your leadership career, then it's probably not for you.
Yes, we know who you are. You're not a leader. Okay. Well, that's awesome. It's did you read it? Are you the reader?
No, I did not. I
Okay.
fortunately had somebody else. That sounded like a couple hours of misery to me, so I had somebody else do it.
I did my first book. I read it. It's great. I loved it. I mean, it was cool. I had a buddy who was high end audio. We did the whole thing in the podcast studio, and I'm like, that's cool. And I give that away. I just give it away. I'm not telling you to give it away, but like I didn't. My mind isn't like Audible quality. Like you put it on Audible. You know, I just have a recording and a link and stuff. But because and people still don't get it. So it's like, well, you're saying. I'm like, I'll go on a podcast and say, hey, just send me a 1 sentence email that says, hey, I saw you on Rich's show. Love to get your audio version of your thing, you know, and send it to me. Like, I've had like 8 requests. You know what I mean? It's like people don't take the action.
Yeah,
that's my point to this, you know, and it's, listen, if you want to be a leader and you want to create a living, it's only by taking action. And that's imperfect action. Okay. Just take action and do this stuff. Get Rich's book, read the thing, and then go apply it. Or always a highlighter. I always do a highlighter with every book. So I have to have the physical book so I can destroy it with my highlighter. Okay. And if I don't highlight anything, well, maybe it wasn't a good book. I don't know. But
well, I hope you need to highlight mine some.
I know I'm gonna. I already know from this. See, this is the full sneak peek. I got the full sneak peek. How can I not read it? So I love it. Well, Rich, today, thank you for all this time, all the wisdom, everything done. Congratulations on just building a 38-year company and then installing new leaders, and just the whole progress you took and what you built is really impressive. And I'm not saying that because you're my guest. I know the industry, and it's like that's an impressive thing you've done. And I hope people take away things they can do the same thing. Like if they put the focus,
they can do the same thing, but they got to start someplace. And leaders are really good leaders are in short supply. But just because you're a technician today doesn't mean you're not capable of being a leader.
That's right, man. Great advice. And with that, Rich, thank you again for your time, and for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.